Tip number 2 is a rather practical one. If someone asks you for a favor, take some time before you say yes or no. This is actually what the author told Megan. Whenever someone asked her for something, she felt pressed and automatically said yes, even if she didn't want to. So Morin gave her a script, something she could easily respond with in those situations. For example, when someone asked her for a favor, she said something like this: "Thanks for asking. Let me check my calendar and then I'll get back at you in a bit." This way, she bought herself some time, which made it easier for her to say this small but powerful word with 2 letters, no. Mentally strong people are not afraid of taking calculated risks. When Dale told his wife about an old dream of his, opening up his own furniture store, he was met with a good amount of eye-rolling. Oh, what a dreamer he was. And he agreed. Why would he give up his stable job as a high school teacher for a risky undertaking like this? So he kept on working in the same old job. The only problem, the more he tried to forcefully repress his true aspiration, the more frustrated he grew. Even worse, he felt defeated and depressed. He found himself stuck in a dilemma. What should he do? So let's take a deeper look at this and see how mentally strong people handle risks. Like Dale, most people are naturally averse to risk-taking. They're afraid of making certain decisions, often entertaining worst-case scenarios in their head. But instead of fulfilling their wishes, they end up on the couch ruminating about what life could have had in store for them if they only dared to do X and Y. So what do mentally strong people do differently? Here's the answer. They take calculated risks. They do this in 2 steps. First, they get a full and realistic picture of the potential dangers and benefits involved. They ask themselves, what is the worst thing that can happen? Also, what is the best thing that can happen? Second, they find a way to appropriately adjust the risks involved. Too many people approach life decisions with an all-or-nothing attitude. Either I'll become a famous rock star or I'll be a loser forever, they cry. But don't be overly dramatic. There's a middle way. And that's exactly what Dale did. He realized it's not an either-or decision. He can have the safety of his daytime job and the excitement of running his own business at the same time. All he had to do was start his furniture shop on a part-time basis, working on evenings and weekends. And instead of buying a whole store, he could sell his creations online. If there was enough interest, he could open a storefront later on. His mood immediately improved. After all, he did what mentally strong people naturally do. He took a calculated risk. Coming to terms with the past makes you stronger, but it takes concrete steps to do so. Gloria's relationship with her 28-year-old daughter was more than difficult. It became clear to Gloria that her daughter was stuck in a loop of self-destructive behavior, constantly switching boyfriends, not holding down a job, and moving back in with her. But instead of saying anything, she even enabled it with her well-meaning behavior. Why? Because she felt guilt and shame over how she wasn't really there for her daughter when she was younger, so now she wanted to make up for it. In other words, she was so stuck in the past that she couldn't move forward. If there's something we can learn from Gloria's story, it's this: if you want to become mentally stronger, you should stop dwelling on your past. This habit comes in many forms. It can mean you're replaying certain scenes from your past over and over. You're wondering how your life would have turned out if you had taken this one job. Or you assume that getting back with your ex-lover will solve all your problems. Yes, a certain amount of retrospective reflection is healthy, but too much of it can be destructive. How do you stop then, you might ask yourself. Here's the trick. Instead of dwelling on your past, you should come to terms with it and then move forward. The first step here is acceptance. You've got to realize that no matter what you do, you're not going to be able to change what has happened. This may also mean that you forgive someone who has inflicted pain on you. And second, move forward. Shift your thoughts onto something new, and do this with intention. When you notice how your thoughts are spiraling back to past events, make an effort to replace those thoughts. For example, start making plans for your next vacation. Even better, come up with new goals for your future. The more you get yourself in a habit of thinking about the future, the harder it will become for your brain to go back to the past. hence you stop dwelling on it. So far, we've been talking quite a lot about habits. But we haven't really acknowledged that habits can come in many shapes and forms. Take Gloria from the piece before. It was her thinking that was problematic, since her thoughts were so stuck in the past. This was different from Richard from point number 3, who found himself snacking in front of the TV even though he wanted to lose weight. Here we are talking about habitual behavior. And remember James, who got so upset that his ex-wife took the daughter on a whale-watching trip before he did. Well, his bad habits were all about emotions. The point here is, if you want to develop your mental strength, you need to be aware of these 3 levels of mental strength: thoughts, behavior and emotions. Some bad habits start out on one level and then have a tendency to spill over. But it also works the other way around. If you start improving one of those 3, it will affect the other 2. They are all intertwined. Mentally strong people avoid repeating the same mistakes, and this requires self-discipline. Let's take a little time machine to a small town in mid-19th century Massachusetts. We're with the businessman Roland Macy, who just launched a dry goods store, but made quite a fatal mistake. The location he chose was way too quiet, and he struggled to attract customers as a result. To drum up interest in his fledgling store, Macy organized a large parade through his town that would end up at his shop. Unfortunately, on the day of the parade it was so blazing hot that nobody turned up. He fell so deep into debt that he had to give up his business, but Macy learned from this experience and vowed not to make the same mistake again. The next time he opened a Macy dry goods store, he chose a prime location in downtown New York. It was a massive hit. The rest is history. Macy's became one of the biggest chain stores in the world and still holds a parade every year, just in the fall, to avoid the heat. What Roland Macy did here is another characteristic of mentally strong people. They study and learn from their mistakes so they don't repeat them in the future. To learn from your mistakes the next time something goes wrong, you can take some time to ask yourself the following questions. What did I do wrong? What could I have done better? And what can I do differently next time around? Of course, knowing what you need to do differently and actually doing it is not the same thing. This is why, if you want to put a stop to the bad habits once and for all, you need to practice self-discipline. Here are 3 simple methods to become a more disciplined person. First, keep your eyes on your goal. By picturing how great it will feel once you've reached it, like how amazing it will feel once you've put the finishing touches on your novel, it will be easier to sit down to write on evenings when you feel like just dropping down in front of the TV. Second, make a list of mistakes you've made in the past that you don't want to repeat. Carry this list with you at all times, and when you feel like you're about to repeat a mistake, take it out and read it to yourself. And third, make it harder to make mistakes. Let's say your goal is to save money for a dream trip, but you always end up spending too much money when you're out with your friends. Before you leave home for an outing, take a small amount of cash out and leave your credit card at home. That way, you're less likely to go on a spending spree. Mentally strong people don't envy other people's success but rather seek to collaborate with them. So if you ever got grumpy while browsing through your peers' seemingly perfect lives on social media, this one might be for you. In 2013, researchers published a study with the telling title, Envy on Facebook: A Hidden Threat to Users' Life Satisfaction. The result? People can get really bummed out to see other people's successes and happiness.